Hi everyone. I've had a request from numerous viewers to do something with a ficus that isn't old, and I take that to mean a ficus just like one you can buy from the store. So recently when I was at the local home store, I decided to see what kind of trouble I could get into for a very small amount of money, and I picked up this ficus here for $6. And I picked up this pot here on clearance for about $15. Now the reason I like this pot, aside from the fact that it's got a beautiful glaze to it and it was made in Malaysia, which is close enough to Japan for a tropical bonsai, the other thing about this pot is it's about the same size and shape as a traditional Japanese bonsai training pot. And it's very nice for our ficus here because it's going to let it grow a lot of roots and thicken up very quickly, regardless of whether you keep it indoors or outdoors. So what we're going to do is we're going to pot this ficus and we're going to shape it a little bit and we're going to pretty it up and we're going to create something nice that you can keep indoors in your house or your office, or you can keep out in the garden. And although it's not going to be strictly a bonsai per se when we finish it, it'll be something that's going to be well on its way to becoming a bonsai a few years in the future, and especially for you young folks who don't have any place to go to get bonsai supplies other than the big home store, this should be a nice little project. So let's take a good look at this ficus. The first thing we notice is it's a multi-trunk, and I deliberately didn't look too hard for something with lots of bonsai potential. I wanted this to be a take it as you find it kind of a project. Now we look at the trunks, and this side's going to be the front of the tree because it puts the main trunk front and center, and that way the secondary trunks farther back will give you a little bit of perspective on it and make it appear more three-dimensional. Now we count the number of trunks, and we've got the main one, numbers 2, 3, and 4 over here on the viewer's right side, and then numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8 over on the left. Now we can do an 8-trunk bonsai if we're doing a Chinese style bonsai, because that's a good luck number for the Chinese. But if you're doing Japanese style, the Japanese like odd numbers, which would be 3, 5, 7, 9, or 11. The Chinese don't do 9 trunks because the Chinese word for the number 9 is the same as the Chinese word for suffering. And so for superstitious reasons, they'd consider a 9-trunk bonsai to be unlucky. But with this, I think what we're going to do is go down to about 5 trunks. And the reason is, with ficus, as the trunks thicken, they're going to fuse together, and you end up with kind of an undesirable appearance with no trunk differentiation at the base. So let's get started. Approaching the tree from the side here, we've taken off one trunk, and now we're going to clean off some other growth here at the base. And then we want to take off this other one in the middle. Now, like I said, the reason with ficus that we take them out of the middle is because they'll tend to fuse together as they get thicker, and we kind of need room for that. Now, one other thing we can do with this, as it gets older and the trunks get thicker, we can actually split apart the trunks below the ground at the root system, and we can spread it out to create a group planting or a forest. But this tree is a little bit too immature to do that with right now, so just going to do some very basic shaping here. And we may do a little wiring. Just going to hold it over the pot here, look at it from my proposed front, and kind of see where we're going to go with this. Okay, we've got some crossing branches in here that still need to go. And okay, I think we're getting pretty close to where we want to have it now. Our $6 ficus has now been pruned and wired, and although it's still not a bonsai, it definitely looks like it's headed in that direction. Now let's see if we can ease it out of this little flower pot. That came very nicely. And I guess at the nursery something went wrong with the planting tag. It ended up down here in the roots. Look at that. But boy, are these roots nice and healthy. So we've got our pot, and because this is not a bonsai pot, it doesn't have feet on the bottom, so we couldn't wire in our drainage screen. We just set it in the bottom. And now we'll add enough soil to provide a base for the tree. This is going to be a much larger pot than the tree was originally in, but it looks like we're at about the right height here. Now we do have a few weeds in it, and that's because after I bought this tree it sat on my porch for a little while and got fertilized, and the weeds apparently like the fertilizer. So we'll just backfill soil here. The soil is the same recipe I use for just about everything. It's in my soil video. And we're just shoveling it on in there. And since ficus trees have really powerful roots, they're going to push roots into this real easy. And it's going to fill this pot with roots quickly. It's also going to thicken up very quickly, and at the end of this video we'll show you one of these that we started on a couple of years ago that's done very well since. Potted our ficus now, and we've added some stones, and since the Ficus benjamina's native environment is going to be places where the stones are well washed and eroded, like a tropical river canyon or maybe an area near a tropical ocean. That's typically where you find banyan trees growing. You're going to find stones like this, so it makes sense to do a composition like this with our little ficus. Now you'll notice there's a milky white substance where we pruned some leaves and branches, and that's the ficus tree's sap, and it heals over pretty quickly. You get a lot of it when they're in active growth like this, but since it heals the tree very quickly, these tend to respond very well to pruning. So this is our ficus, and we reduced it to 5 trunks and wired the secondary trunks and prettied it up, and what we'll do is we'll come back to this in a year or so and see how much thicker it's gotten. And now, just for those of you who are expecting a real bonsai, quote unquote, so that you don't feel left out, let's show you something, what this is going to look like eventually. Okay, we're watering our ficus here, and we're just going to run this until we see it running out the bottom, which it's actually started to do already. So we'll give it a little more. And there's our ficus project. Something nice to put in your office or in your house to just kind of give it that bonsai feel. Now for something a bit more developed and a bit more mature. This ficus here is something that I acquired for free from someone who didn't want it anymore. And when I first got it, maybe 3 years ago, it was in a 1-gallon pot, not much larger than this other ficus, and it was a little bit thicker than this other one, but most of the trunk growth you see here has been accomplished just in the past 2 to 3 years. So in terms of what you can expect from something like this, given a couple of years and a nice pot like that and good soil and fertilizer, this here is what you can expect. Now, one final thought to leave you with. This tree's been leaf pruned, meaning we defoliated it early this year, and that's why the leaves on this are smaller than the younger one over there. So for those folks who have asked about ficus defoliation, one little final point, this tree gives you a good idea what the effect of that is. Thank you for watching, folks.